All right, it's taking the Pioneer 500 out this weekend, which means I need to replace the broken axle. So I just slide hammered the axle out of the diff because I have a torque locker. And the torque locker means you usually break the snap ring to get the axle out, the actual inner out. It's one of the great things about, adding performance is you never have a factory fit. Oh, the other one just fell as we were talking, so there's the rest of the snap ring. Always make sure you have the whole thing. So I welded a bolt on there and just slide hammered the shit out of it until I broke the snap ring, which is kind of normal with these torque lockers in a P500. I'm often told that these Eastlake axles are good. You don't need Demons. No. Look at the size difference of the cups. That gives you more angle. Better boots. These boots are junk. Double plunging, higher angle. If you're going to run anything with a front locker or you're going to run a big tire, these cheapo, Amazon, eBay, there are a bunch of different name brands for them, but most people call them Eastlakes, are not going to hold up. The outer cage will shatter. The star piece is way smaller than in here, right? And that cannot transmit enough torque to turn that big of a tire without a locker. I mean, look how small that is. Yeah, really tiny internals.
But yeah, excited that these are all double plunging now. These Demons do have some upgrades. So these newer Demons are using the same internals as the Extremes. So they put the really heavy duty, awesome alloy cage inside the HG axles now. So these should be a really, really strong setup. But yeah, time to see what else is going to break.
Okay, so this is the short side axle, aka the passenger axle on the Pioneer 500. And I'm trying to demonstrate one of the things I really like about it. But it's hard to do with one hand, so bear with me here. So if you look at the axles right now, you can see, this is tricky. 1 second. All right, if you look at them right now, you can see that the Demon's about 1/2 inch longer, right? And that's because it's double plunging. So it can be both longer and shorter because it has more travel. So I'm gonna compress it now. And now it's shorter. And if I extend it all the way, it gets way longer. So what I mean by double plunging is this axle has travel in the inner cup and the outer cup, which is pretty cool. See that? This outer cup does not have travel. So this is as long as this one can get right here. And when it does that, the boot gets all stupid looking, and yeah. So the reason that's important is because if you're running aftermarket suspension or you've moved your control arms forward, you're changing the geometry how the axle plunges. So having more travel in the plunging means less binding and less axle popping out of the diff and everything else. So if you're gonna do wonky stuff like this, move the control arm forward, or if you're gonna run aftermarket control arms that rake it forward or long arm or whatever, having double plunging is really nice. And that's something Demon started to incorporate on more and more of their axles. Most of the ones I've gotten recently are double plunging. The only ones I think that aren't are the Pioneer 1000. I think the Pioneer 1000 is still single plunging, but it's been working fine with those as well. All right, so we got our new Honda seal in there all greased. Got our new axle with a new sealing surface, so our differential should be totally waterproof now. That's why I wanted to go ahead and do both axles together, was just to get new seals and everything and new sealing surfaces. Let's go ahead and pop that sucker in. I need 2 hands, I'll be right back. All right, that popped in very easily with 2 hands. When you install the axle, you want to make sure that it's all the way up against the seal like that, and then you want to give it a tug and make sure it doesn't pop right back out. This is interesting. So with my factory axles, when the bolt was in the shock, the axle was just starting to bind. Now you can see that with the Demons, I can push it down way past the bolt hole, and there's still no binding. And that's because it's double plunging. So it used to bind on the inner cup, but now that the shaft can move around, it avoids that completely. So I can lift the front of my Pioneer 500 another 1/2 inch now at least. Pretty sweet. You can see how rake forward it is too. Oh yeah. All right, the axles are completely installed. I just took it for a little ride, changed the gear oil, and they look pretty sweet. The OEM ones broke really easy, and then the previous owner had put one aftermarket one in here, and that broke, I mean, first ride, first time I had it in reverse at all. So yeah, pretty excited to have some more reliability. Also, I was looking at it, so even though I'm raked forward about, 2¼ inches with moving the control arms forward, maybe 2½ inches, my axles are straight now because from the factory they were raked back. So by moving it forward, I actually took a little bit of angle off the axle, which is kind of counterintuitive. With most machines, you'd be adding angle by adding rake, but this thing is just so weird and dorky the way Honda made it.